Doctora Phillippa Diedrichs, psicóloga investigadora con reputación internacional por el diseño y desarrollo de estrategias basadas en evidencia para mejorar la imagen corporal en la comunidad, las empresas y propuestas de cambio en políticas públicas, interesada en el diseño y creación de entornos seguros y equitativos que acepten apariencias diversas y apoyen a las personas, en particular las niñas, las mujeres y las personas no binarias, para que vivan libres de presiones por apariencia, preocupaciones, estereotipos y sistemas injustos. La profesora Diedrichs ha trabajado en proyectos de investigación en todo el mundo, como el Center for Appearance Research, incluidos Asia, Europa, Norte y América del Sur y Australia. Su investigación se publica en más de 70 artículos y capítulos de libros y ha aparecido en el New York Times, BBC, Time, Forbes y en la Escuela de Negocios y la Escuela de Salud Pública de Harvard. Ha trabajado junto a la marca más grande de Unilever, Dove, UNICEF, NHS, Inglaterra, Cartoon Network, Getty Image, Girl Effect, YMCA, Asociación Mundial de Guías Femeninas y Girl Scouts, Edelman y Ogilvy.
Hi everyone, I'm Phillippa Diedrichs, a body image researcher from the Center for Appearance Research, and today I'm going to be talking about some evidence-based tools and interventions that we can use to encourage positive discussions about body image among women and girls, but really crucially to encourage young people to have body confidence and to prevent them from developing body image concerns in later life. So why is this an important topic to cover? Well, when we look at global research, we see that 61% of girls are dissatisfied with the way that they look. And there is some indication that this dissatisfaction is increasing over time. And unfortunately, what we see is that from longitudinal research, but also research that's looked at adult women through to midlife and older adulthood, is that we don't graduate from these concerns or grow out of them, with the evidence suggesting that body image concerns are still present in later life. And why should we care about this, and why is this something that we need to do something about? Well, as many of you will know, that there's over 3 decades of research which shows that when young people, particularly girls and women, have poor body image and experience body dissatisfaction, it impacts all key areas of their lives. That includes their psychological and physical health and well-being, relationships, education, and agency. And this has been shown in really robust longitudinal as well as experimental and cross-sectional research, with some of the negative consequences for psychological health being low self-esteem, depression, anxiety, physical health, smoking, taking up smoking and not stopping from smoking, substance misuse, risky sexual behaviours, through to having challenges in relationships, not wanting to spend time with friends and family. And then we also see it having an impact on educational and workplace aspirations. And finally, women's and girls' confidence to speak up in society and challenge some of the systems that oppress them. How do we have positive discussions about this? Or more to the point, how do we change this? Well, this is a quote that I really love from Eve Ensler, who said, "We need to stop fixing our bodies and start fixing the world." So how do we go about doing that? Well, psychologists and researchers have been trying to develop evidence-based approaches to improving body image among young people and among women for several decades now, since probably the mid-1980s. And what we've seen, particularly in recent years in the late 2000s, is that if you look at some of the meta-analyses conducted by Eric Stice and other systematic reviews by some of my colleagues, we see now that we do have some effective evidence-based interventions for community and online settings that have been shown to work and that actually improve body image. They can change attitudes and change behaviours. But unfortunately, until recently, we've had a historical lack of broad-scale dissemination and uptake of these interventions. And some of the reasons behind this potentially are that there has been little research out of high-income countries, so we know very little about how these tools and how body image is experienced in low and middle-income countries. Also, we've got a lack of infrastructure and resource, so once we develop the interventions, often funded by research grants, we don't have the means to get these out there in a sustainable way. And also, increasingly, what's recognised not just within the field of body image, but within the field of mental health more broadly, is that we've tended to over-rely on face-to-face interventions, and highly skilled providers or providers that have been trained for many years, such as psychologists, psychiatrists, counsellors, to deliver these interventions. And as a result, these are some of the barriers to getting them out there to lots of people. So Professor Vikram Patel, who's a professor of global mental health, really summed this up nicely in the context of mental health interventions more broadly, is that perhaps the most challenging barrier of all, though, to get evidence-based programs out there is the great shortage of skilled human resources to address mental disorders in most regions of the world. There will simply never be enough psychologists and psychiatrists to meet the demand of mental health issues globally. And this applies to body image among girls and women as well. So I want to take you through a little bit about some of the work that myself and my colleagues at the Centre for Appearance Research have been doing with the multinational brand Dove, which is owned by Unilever and is a global personal care brand. Actually, I think what really sums up what we've done together, both between Dove and the Centre for Appearance Research, is we've really showed how using partnerships with community organisations and businesses and academics is really crucial to scaling up the delivery of evidence-based interventions. Also, digital interventions and innovations, so not just relying on face-to-face interventions. Multi-level strategies, so we have some really in-depth tools and workshops which are multi-session interventions, which are super important to having long-term changes. But I would argue that we also need to supplement those with a stepped care approach and multi-level approaches. So we're also reaching people with in-depth interventions and bite-sized interventions and messages at the same time. And then really crucially, as we've seen from the long legacy of the success of community participatory-based research, is that it's really important that we have the users or the end users of our research at the centre of when we do the research, when we develop the interventions, and when we implement them. So in the context, I'll be talking about girl-centred research. So briefly, who are our partners in all of this? Well, we've partnered with Dove, which is a multinational personal care brand, as I said before. So this is a brand that sells soaps, deodorants, skin and hair care, and it was established in 1953, and it's the parent global company Unilever's largest brand. And some of you might know Dove from its campaign for real beauty, which really shattered advertising stereotypes in the beauty industry back in 2004 by showcasing women of all skin tones, ages and body sizes, perhaps for the first time that we've seen that in the beauty. But what some of you might not know is that since 2004, Dove has also had a social mission called the Dove Self-Esteem Project. And this is a global education initiative which sets out to ensure that the next generation of girls and women grows up with a positive relationship with how they look. So we started working with the Dove Self-Esteem Project over 7 years ago. And what this became was a really huge opportunity to bring together world-leading experts and academics in body image research with a multinational company to deliver evidence-based body image interventions at scale and to overcome some of those barriers that I talked about before. So we formed an academic partnership in 2014 to start looking at the educational tools delivered by the Dove Self-Esteem Project globally and to evaluate them to make sure they were having an impact. So all of the interventions and the tools, we essentially say there's not going to be one intervention that's going to do everything. Essentially, there is no magic bullet. So adopting a social ecological approach to health, which is, is what we see commonly in public health and mental health more broadly, is that we need to intervene at multiple levels to have an impact. So this is the framework that we have developed with Dove, and essentially it is about the intensity of the interventional tool that gets delivered to girls or to young people. So at level 1, we have one-on-one interventions where you might have an adult or a parent delivering a tool one-on-one with a young person. Then we move up to level 2, which is individual or group level programs which are delivered by a professional with training or with no training. So this could be a teacher downloading some workshops and tools to deliver to their classroom. And finally, we move through to level 3, which is much more like public health broad mass communication campaigns. So we might be delivering some kind of media content with a positive body image message, but at a very large scale to millions of people. So here are some of the examples of some of the tools that we've developed over the past 7 years in collaboration with some other academics around the world. So one of them is Confident Me, which is a series of school workshops which tackle the issue of body confidence. And we have a single session, 1-hour version, and then a 5-session version. We've also developed a website for parents to help them support their children to develop body confidence. We also worked on the first evidence-based Girl Guides and Girl Scouts badge program, and this was based on cognitive dissonance program intervention called the Body Project, and we also adapted this for youth leaders. We've also then taken this to be a global approach. And so while a lot of these interventions were originally developed in Western Europe and in North America and Australia, we're actually been working with collaborators and partners in other countries around the world to see how we can scale them up. So Helena Lewis-Smith and colleagues are currently adapting Confident Me and some of the key messages into a comic book-based intervention in rural India. And Nadia Craddock, Kirsty Garber and Sharon Haywood colleagues are also adapting the Confident Me toolkit for use in Indonesian schools. At level 2, however, we've started to move towards what we are calling digital micro-interventions. So these are brief, in-the-moment interventions that reach young people as they're going about their everyday lives. So this could be while they're playing digital games on their phones. We've created a pop-up mini game that's 90 seconds long that communicates key evidence-based messages about body image. We've also developed a personalised ebook, and more recently we've been working in partnership with UNICEF and Girl Effect to develop an artificial intelligence chatbot for Brazilian adolescents delivered through Facebook Messenger, as well as another version of the mini game, but this time for younger children aged 6 to 9, and then also some brief social media marketing videos and campaigns that will be delivered to Indonesian girls in particular in partnership with Girl Effect. Finally, at level 3, these are the broad-scale media-based interventions that are going to reach millions of young people all at once with evidence-based messages about body positivity. So we created some cartoons between Dove, the Centre for Appearance Research, and Steven Universe, which is a cartoon that's broadcast on Cartoon Network. So these were short 90-second cartoons with evidence-based body positive messages. And then we also worked on an Instagram live TV series in partnership with Attention.com and Lena Waithe, which addressed some of the trials and tribulations that adolescent girls go through in terms of having body confidence. In addition, I should say, to developing these tools, what's really important is that we also evaluate them to make sure that they're having the impact that that we hope that they do. And so we've conducted a series of randomized control trials to evaluate the impact of these tools. And there's a lot to celebrate. So as I said, we've conducted randomized control trials and mixed method evaluations, and we've now collected data in over 45 countries to evaluate the impact on these tools. As I said, the field of body image research has historically been dominated by English-speaking countries and high-income countries. And so we've also undertaken a really rigorous program of work to develop and validate measures of body image in Hindi, English, Bahasa Indonesia, and Brazilian Portuguese as well, so that we can be sure that we're measuring these interventions in a robust way. Overall, our research has shown that these interventions are acceptable, feasible, and effective in improving young people's body confidence. And crucially, overcoming that barrier of a lack of human resource, we've shown that they can be effectively delivered by teachers, parents, youth leaders, and in some cases, be self-administered or delivered direct to young people themselves. There's also some firsts in here, which our team is really proud of. So, for example, we've been the first to rigorously evaluate body image interventions in India and Indonesia, and the first to show the benefits of some new gaming technology, particularly those pop-up playable games, and edutainment or entertainment, which is education to improve mental health. We also need to say that, as I said at the very beginning of this, partnership and collaboration is crucial to having an impact at scale. And so our team hasn't done this alone. We have partnered with researchers and amazing academics from all over the world to make this research happen. But most importantly, what we're really proud of is through partnership, through innovation and collaboration, we've managed to reach over 60 million young people with evidence-based body image tools in over 142 countries. And by reaching young people at scale through collaboration, this is how I believe that we really have an impact to shift the conversation about body image among girls and women. So if I'm going to sum up really briefly, what have we learned from all of this? Well, planning ahead is really crucial. So you need to identify routes for dissemination and impact at the outset. And importantly, identify how the needs of stakeholders will be met, especially if they're not used to using evidence-based interventions. So there are many organisations around the world who have huge platforms and have huge memberships of girls and women, but they might not be used to the format of evidence-based interventions. So it's really important that you engage them from the outset. And of course, when you're working in partnership, crucial to establish clear roles and responsibilities and deliverables. Some of the insights into working with big business, because this is not necessarily common, particularly in the social sciences and in public health. And working with our collaborators at Dove has been an amazing experience, but also a really challenging one, because the timelines and the ways of working between academia and industry are often very different. So my insights are working with industry can be very fast-paced and often push the kind of academic systems to their limits. There's also some stigma around working with businesses and social sciences, and some skepticism about the intentions behind businesses and why they want to work in this space. And, you know, that's probably rightly so if we think about big tobacco and the big pharmaceutical industries and the roles that they've played in research. But that's why it's really important that you have clear roles and responsibilities, and also clear boundaries. So, for example, we reserve the right to publish our research irrespective of what the results find. But what we've really learned is that big business and industry, they're not just funders, they're actually genuine partners in all of this. And we get to work with some of the brightest minds in marketing, in technology, and in creativity, and with youth leaders and organizations to deliver evidence-based interventions that impact. And they have these insights into technology, mass influence, and leadership that we don't necessarily have all the time in academia. And crucially, they're always challenging us to think big and to dream big and aim high, and to be, how can we reach millions of young people to improve their body confidence at scale? Partnership, as I keep saying, is really key to all of this. So you need to ensure that it's mutually beneficial, that there's a shared vision, and importantly, trust and open communication and clear boundaries, because inevitably there are going to be barriers and roadblocks along the way. So having that shared vision of what you want to achieve, so in our case, to improve the lives of girls and women around the world so that they're not held back by body image concerns, is really crucial to be able to come back to that when we face some of the inevitable challenges in doing research in real world settings. So to sum up, as I said, partnerships, digital innovation, multi-level strategies, and girl-centered research and interventions, I think, are crucial to really shifting the conversations about body confidence and moving things forward for girls and women around the world. And so I couldn't also end this without a shout out to the amazing women researchers that I get to work with on a daily basis at the Centre for Appearance Research, who have all been instrumental in leading the research and designing a lot of these interventions and tools that I've been talking about. So yeah, shout out to these women, they're truly phenomenal. So thanks very much for your time today. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and I look forward to answering your questions.